Hi guys and welcome to Train Sim Journeys Series 3, Episode 4, and today we're on the Chatham Main Line, and today our journey is going to be on board a pair of Class 465-9s. So before we get going, let's set the train up first and get the doors open. So let's get started. So our train in front is 465-920 and at the rear is 465-918. Just turn our route up for Dover Priory. There we go. So our train will be calling on the basin. Well, actually, I'm going to kind of put it another way. I'm going to put it like this. So we're doing the 1710 service to Dover Priory. So we'll be calling at Bromley South, Rochester, Chatham, Gillingham, Rainham, Sittingbourne, Teynham, Faversham, Selling, Canterbury East, Bekesbourne, Addisham, Aylesham, Snowdown, Shepherdswell, Kearsney, and finishing up at Dover Priory. I sometimes don't like when that happens. Alright, anyway, so let's get this train going. Let's pair 375s just arriving in. Now last time I did a journey on the pair of 465s, well actually it was a single set 465, was in my very first series when I did the video from London Victoria to Rochester via Denmark Hill. One slight note about that, the 465 in there is not the one based from the same Armstrong Powerhouse power pack that I'm using in this one. That was the original TGG version that was featured in the add-ons for the Chatham Main Line and Medway Valley lines. That was featured on the one that I did at the time. Now this version from the 465 for Armstrong Powerhouse pack is also the same one I used for the Class 466 for the route in the first series, which looking back on doing 20 episodes on that, I have to admit it was a bit too long. I think for me, if I'm going to do train sim journeys, if I was going to probably do a max length, I'd probably would only do like maybe 6 minimum to 10 episodes at the most. 20 is just too much and too time consuming. Anyway, now the reason why the last time I used the 466 because I thought, thinking, yeah, fair enough, why not? Just give it a try. Now a couple of things have changed since. I didn't find out until actually when I went spotting at Sittingbourne back in March, is that now all services on the Sheerness branch is now served by Class 375s. -3s. Yeah, that's correct. They've actually been like that since December 2019, which is... I get it from a capacity perspective, but I do admit though, if you're gonna, I don't know, it's just, I don't know how to put it, but I understand that the 466s on their own could not handle a demand like a place like Sheerness. But on the 375s, I mean, surely by now, no disrespect to Southeastern or Babaji, okay, now Alston, but at least can you just update your 375s with like modern day stuff with like USB ports? It would make it a lot more easier. The only thing I don't want them to kind of go south on it is if they're going to do any updates to the 375s inside on the interior, is don't go down the route that Avanti West Coast are going with the 390s. Now, based on some of the early reports coming out of that, is that it's not very promising. Yeah, the seats on the 390s, the refurbed ones, the early feedback suggests they're not brilliant. But that's what I've heard. But obviously, I haven't been on one of them yet at the time of this, so I do like to see. I probably will eventually see one of these for myself, some point in the future, but I'm not sure when it's going to be. So anyway, we just crossed over the River Thames. We're just about to pass through the area of Battersea. Just about a shot behind these blocks of flats, or barely are blocks of flats. That's going on. Although I know in real life, because I actually went round to Battersea area just a couple of weeks ago when they filmed at Battersea Park. Just out shot to the right, there's the Chatham Main Line. That will head to Battersea Park and Clapham Junction. In fact, until 2012, that was also where the inner loop service for Southern used to go via Wandsworth Road and Clapham High Street. And then used to go over the Chatham Main Line at Brixton, but without serving Brixton, of course. Obviously, we used to head towards like Denmark Hill. But since the East Line opened in 2012, December 2012, they decided to sever the link where they used to go via Battersea Park. Now, here's a bit of a fact. You know, they're still surprisingly, I don't know how to put this, but there's still like technically 5 platforms layout. One is out of use. One is only used exclusively only a few trains a day by government workings for whether it's overground or Southern, although technically it's overground nowadays. And the only other time, of course, is if, let's say, Clapham Junction is closed to London Overground, so they divert all the trains that normally go to Clapham Junction on the East Line via Battersea Park. So anyway, just passing now Wandsworth Road, which is served by London Overground services from Clapham Junction, which with most services to Clapham Junction on the East Line nowadays originate from Dawson Junction, not Highbury and Islington. So if anybody normally goes from Clapham Junction to somewhere on the East Line, for someone like Highbury and Islington, you would either would have to change East Line at Dawson Junction to go to Canterbury and Highbury and Islington, or the easier option is jump on SWR to Vauxhall and then get the Victoria line from there to Highbury and Islington, which is probably, for me, is probably the easiest of the two. But that's my take. Anyway, just passing through another station. I think that should be Clapham High Street. Let's do this. Now, on the underground side of things of the North Line at Clapham North, yes, even though there is no direct interchange between the two, but it's actually just not far from there where Clapham High Street is. In fact, the history about that place is that when that got opened in 1900, it actually was known as Clapham Road until the day when, until not long after the Northern Line was extended southwards from Clapham Common to Morden in September 1926. Anyway, I'm getting a little bit sidetracked myself here. So let's focus on the train. So I'm going to focus on the train in question here. So the 465-9. Now, there was a comment I remember reading up on my video from Faversham. Somebody put in, say, like, I missed the 465 serving here. Why do not run here to like places like Dover Priory anymore? And it got me thinking, and I'm like thinking to myself here, well, okay, you know, maybe for a future train sim journey video, perhaps, maybe do that line with a pair of 465-9s or something. Now, I was thinking of just finding whatever one to come first at random. So if it's a 465-1, one other point about those, they have the tarty sounds in them rather than the Metro camera ones like the 465-9s. Or you could use the 465-2s, but at the time of this recording, they've now pretty much most of them have gone off lease. And we're just passing through Brixton. And the line to the left just diverged away towards Denmark Hill, which will eventually join back up with us at Shortlands by Catford, as well as open up stations like Peckham Rye as well. Just about to pass through Herne Hill, and here we join up with the Thameslink route from London Blackfriars via Elephant Castle. So the line afterwards heads away towards Tulse Hill, which actually joins up with the Portsmouth line, which I can only guess likely from London Bridge. Also, that route's very handy because it could also be used by Thameslink services on diverts as well, via let's say Tulse Hill. So if they say the line from East Croydon to London Bridge is closed, what they would do is they divert them via Tulse Hill. I've been on Thameslink, like a Brighton to Bedford service on divert between there once before, but that was like over 4 years ago, and that was when I was coming back from filming at Red Hill and Gatwick Airport that day. That was March 31st, 2018. I've been to Red Hill after that once, but that was like June last year. But I haven't been back to Gatwick Airport since, and I know some probably will ask me, well, why don't you go back there? A couple of things to know, there are two things why I'm not going back there just yet. One, to film at Gatwick Airport, you would have to get security clearance for that, and yes, I'm not joking, the same thing goes apply for places even like Stratford International, where you do have to get security clearance. And the other reason is because for me now's not a good time to go there at the moment, because they've got this massive rebuild of the actual station itself that's still in progress right now. Anyway, the previous station we just passed through is West Dulwich. We're just about to pass through Sydenham Hill. Here it is. And we're going to enter Sydenham Hill or Payne Tunnel. Whatever you decide to call it. Also, another fact, and on here, is that up until 2007, when Eurostar used to go from Waterloo International, this is actually the course of where the Eurostar trains used to go through. So the original course used to be coming out of Waterloo, well alongside the Southeastern Main Line through Vauxhall. The single line connection takes it up and over the Southeastern Main Line, which joins up at Factory Junction, which then follows the course of the Chatham Main Line as far as well, this is the first now. This is before 2003, before the first section of HS1 ended. They used to go, I think, to Bickley, and then they used to head away from there, like Orpington, and I think Orpington, Sevenoaks, and Tonbridge, down towards Ashford, and then continue down, following the course of the Southeastern Main Line as far as Donsmore Junction, before it used to go from Third Rail to Overhead Move, on the move, before proceeding into Channel Tunnel. In September 2003, when Eurostar began running over the first section of HS1, that layout was slightly changed. So instead of going on the Southeastern Main Line after Bickley, instead, what it did, as we just passed under the South London line via Crystal Palace, and also just passed under the Brighton Main Line, London Bridge branch as well, just passing through Penn East right now. Yeah, so the fact is, with Eurostar, from September 2003 to November 2007, followed the course of the Chatham Main Line, all the way from where Factory Junction is, before turning off onto the Southwestern Main Line to go to Waterloo. It followed it as far as Forkham Junction, which is just a little bit further on Faversham Road before diverting onto HS1. But obviously nowadays all Eurostar trains go by HS1 and they can't go in third rail anymore because all the third rail connections shoes have all been removed. The only trains that can on HS1 that can go on third rail mode nowadays, of course, is the Southeastern high speed Class 395s. So anyway, we're just passing through Kent House. Just emerging from the right is the Croydon tram link. Well, technically now known as the London tram link, which is now known, which terminates at Bekesbourne Junction. And then also, as we're just about to pass through Bekesbourne Junction itself, just a line to our left is used by the connection services from London Bridge. Also, to point out one other thing, that at Bekesbourne Junction you also get the connection line from the Mid-Kent line that runs between Hayes and Lewisham. And also the fact for the tramlink services, most services that do Bekesbourne Junction originate from Wimbledon. Okay, we're now about to approach Shortlands Junction, which also is where we rejoin the other line that's diverged at Brixton, which is the Catford Loop line by Denmark Hill and Catford, that now rejoins us from the left. And also is the same course that Thameslink trains use. It's going to places like Orpington, which most Orpington services originate either at Kentish Town. Sometimes they could originate from Luton. Although Luton services nowadays is mostly either trains to Sutton via Mitcham Junction or Wimbledon, as well as also present services to Rainham via Greenwich and Dartford, which used the North Kent line, which should join up a little later on before Rochester. Anyway, we're going to start slowing down to our first stop on our journey, which is, of course, is Bromley South. So here we are at Bromley South, our first stop, which all trains call here. So services like to Orpington, Sevenoaks, other services to even Ashford International call here, as well as also to Ramsgate, etc. Now here's a question for everybody, is that you know the onboard announcements they have on Southeastern? Well, outside recording, I've tried my best to try and recreate some of the announcements they do on Southeastern, or something like C2C or Thameslink. So I thought maybe I should give it a go, see how it goes. So here we go. This is a Southeastern service to Dover Priory, calling at Rochester, Chatham, Gillingham, Rainham, Sittingbourne, Teynham, Faversham, Selling, Canterbury East, Bekesbourne, Addisham, Aylesham, Snowdown, Shepherdswell, Kearsney, and Dover Priory. The next station will be Bromley South. Probably not my best effort there, but you probably get the idea where I was going with that. Okay, one other thing of advice about the 465s. Just got to be very careful on this when you open the throttles on these, is not to open them too quickly, because you open up the throttle on these too quickly, you will end up wheel spin, and that will cause the train to stall. So you have to kind of neutralize and then go again, or turn the notch down to like setting 2. Now, some of you may be wondering that in some of the descriptions of some of my Jubilee Line videos I've announced in the past about the 1996 stock, is you're probably wondering, is it true that actually their motors are kind of based from the class 465? Well, technically yes, but there are a couple of minor differences. The motors set on the 465 are more lower geared and more to enable more top speed, whilst the Jubilee Line would obviously the top speed on these is about, I'd say about 100 miles an hour ish. The Jubilee Line 1996 stock motors were re-geared, were kind of based on the same thing, but were re-geared for better acceleration leaving the station. So, in case you're probably wondering, wait a minute, the 1995 stock, could they have done the same thing? Well, not exactly. Because at the time when they were built in 1995, their motors were more of a new design. So they kind of went I know it's a bit hard to believe this, but actually back at the time when the 1996 stock came around, Metro Camel was in transition of being taken over by Aylesham, or they were technically known as temporary as GEC Aylesham, before eventually Aylesham did complete the takeover of Metro Camel. So they thought by trying to save money, they installed the motors of the 465, re-geared them for the 1996 stock, just to keep the cost down. It's a bit ironic, isn't it? How I think you could say, or could be argued, that probably the most popular train on the underground, the 1996 stock, could in fact have been involved in that early revolution of where trains were being built cheaply. Yeah, I know it's very divisive and debatable, especially with the ones we're getting today. But yeah, that's the truth at the end of the day, in some degree, about the Jubilee Line stock. Now the Northern Line's motors, like I said, were a new design, but let's be real though, their motors, well, for many years until the line was resignaled in 2014, I have to say, are terrible. The reason for that is because the motors, the acceleration at the time was very slow, it felt very sluggish, it felt more like when they were entering the station, instead of going to 35 miles an hour into the station at the time, this was before we signaled by the way, it felt like they were going an painful, agonizing 20-25 miles an hour. It just was awful. Yeah, the onboard announcements was okay, the interior was pretty decent, but you know, it's just the motors themselves were just dreadful. I think the fact since they re-signalled the line back in 2014 fully, in some ways, although the Northern Line itself, it could be argued, yes, it's not perfect, but you know, but I think you could say they have improved a lot more than they did back before re-signalling. Anyway, so we're going to carry on now, so not far from our next stop at St Mary Cray. Now here's a question for all of you, is that what trains do you think Southeastern will pursue going forward, eventually when it comes to replacing the 465s when their time comes? Now there's no word yet they're going to replace the 465s, and yet there's no word of that, but at some point down the line you could say it could happen. Some people probably would think, Oh, the obvious option would be adventurous, just like those on Greater Anglia or London Overground, or someone else that they're trying to get working on Southwestern Railway, like 701s, or the new 730s on West Midlands Railway that's being tested out. Or perhaps maybe go something from Siemens, or perhaps based on some of the flats that are being built by Stadier, maybe go with some of those. Now we've got to slow down a bit, because we've got about 75 mile an hour limit through Swanley coming up, which also will be where the junction for the line via Maidstone diverges. Right, to pass it through Swanley. Now we've got the Chatham Main Line 12 cells as far as the next junction, which would be, well, apart from Falcon Junction, which is the out of use. Although I'm not sure if that junction is ever used on HS1. Maybe for some freight movements, but I'm not entirely sure. But who knows? Next time next rail line joins up will be at just before the Medway Bridge at Rochester, which is where the North Kent line will meet up, which comes via Strood. just about to pass underneath the M25. Which actually, where we pass under, is the junction just to the right. It's the junction for the M20 as well as the A20. Which is technically junction... I'm trying to think of that. Oh yeah, junction 3. Technically. I know junction 5, the M25 is to Clackett Lane services. Excuse me, M26. Junction 4 is for Orpington. And then it's junction 3 for the A20 and M20. Of course, the M20 goes down as far as Dover. And we're just about to pass through Farnham Road. Most of the time, it's now the turn for stopping services to Gillingham from London Victoria to call at all stations. This is the first one of them. First of 4. Passing over the viaduct. There's one thing this train, the 465, doesn't like is hills. So when it climbs, it loses a lot of speed. When it descends, it does pick up a lot of speed, depending how steep the gradient is. Now the 65-mile-an-hour warning signal, that's actually for Falcon Junction for trains going onto the connecting line for HS1, which joins at Northfleet, which is from the position of S3 International South. It's actually where it passes, the line passes underneath the A2. So now passing through Longfield. Just passing through Mail Park. And the next station we'll pass through is Soul Street. Ah, too fast. Sorry guys for that mistake, I just wasn't paying attention there. Just passing through now Soul Street. How could I end up not paying attention to that speed limit? Passing through Mail Park. Right, how do you pronounce it? Normally when I do train sim journey videos, I always take speed limits very seriously, but that was my misjudgment then. So I know some will say, "Oh, it's just a game. It's just a train sim, right?" But you know, I don't expect even myself to make that mistake. Because in real life, if you did that sort of thing in real life, you could actually get reprimanded for it very easily. Anyway, guys, let's carry on. Let's carry on. Still got quite a way to go. I have to say though, when I did a couple of trial runs before recording this, I do admit it probably was not the easiest route to do in terms of keeping the speed like under the limit. I will say that, but I think it's kind of the saying that, well, you can't be perfect all the time. You are going to make mistakes, but. It happens, but just sometimes when you do make mistakes, you have to learn from them. It's a bit like when I go spotting sometimes. It's like, sometimes when I don't get my angles when I'm filming correct, it can be very frustrating. But at the same time, it's, you know, it's one of those things, you know. That's why sometimes if there's content I've posted in the past where my camera angles have been messed up, or say like for example one time I went to Basingstoke last year, I have to say my filming there, despite using it, was awful. And you know, sometimes it happens, but I think the lesson is sometimes you just got to try that. It's happened now. You can't change it, but then try and improve maybe the next time wherever you go. You know, that's the same with train sim for me. You know, on this one, I don't expect to be making that mistake when it comes to speed limit. Hopefully, they should do that. Hopefully, they should improve on that on my next journey, perhaps. So if I'm going on a bit too much, guys, but hope you guys understand what I mean. So anyway, we're not far from Rochester itself, and not too long in fact. We're going about to pass underneath, actually just appearing in the distance right here, are 3 bridges. One, as you can see with the overhead power lines, that's HS1, and the other 2, that's the M2 motorway. We're just about to slow down to 30 miles an hour because the 30 mile an hour speed limit is actually going to be for our journey for the next bit, and so not just through Rochester, but it actually carries on through Chatham as well. Just about to skirt around the town of Strood. And also about to cross over the Medway Valley line to Tonbridge via Maidstone East. Correct that, sorry, it's actually not Maidstone East, it's actually Maidstone West. Why did I think it was Maidstone East? Oh, I'm getting a bit confused. So anyway, that's my mistake. So anyway, we're just joining up with the North Kent line from just coming up from the right curve into in and out of Strood, and we're passing over the River Medway. Also to know that 395s actually go to Maidstone West, but only I think it's 2 or 3 trains a day in the morning and evening peaks, which continue down to Maidstone West, with only one intermediate stop at Snowdown. So we're about to arrive into platform 2 at Rochester. The modern Rochester station, which opened in December 2015. So here we are, Rochester. So the fact about Rochester, that the present stations I mentioned dates from December 2015. The reason for that was because the former Rochester station, which we'll pass through in a minute, was not long enough to accommodate 12-car trains. And so it was taken the decision to move it to where it is slightly about 500 metres from where it once was to here. So you've got platform 2 as we're on, platform 1 that's used also for the down line. Now platform 3 is used by either terminating services, but it can also be used also for freight services going via the loop line, which actually, because there's no buffers at the end of the platform. So here we are, passing through the old Rochester station. Just about to pass, so we're heading under now Fort Pitt Tunnel, which is one of two tunnels that sandwich our next stop at Chatham. The other one is, of course, Chatham Tunnel itself. So here we are at Chatham. So our next stop will be Gillingham. Now you're probably wondering to yourself, with Gillingham station, hang on a minute, there's another station on the West of England line that's actually got the same name, right? Well, actually, it's spelt the same, but it's not the same name entirely. So let me explain. So the Gillingham station, obviously, is the one in Kent. But the way to pronounce it on the West of England line in Dorset is actually pronounced as Gillingham. Yes, Gillingham. So hopefully that avoids any confusion. It's like when you go to, let's say, Ashford. So you've got Ashford in Surrey, which is on the line from Waterloo to Reading line. And also you've got Ashford in Kent, which of course is, nearest station is Ashford International. Yeah, some other unusual examples where some places might have the same pronunciation and spelt the same, but sometimes they can be pronounced differently. So anyway, now finally cleared of the 30-mile-an-hour speed limit, and now we're in Gillingham Tunnel itself. As we approach, well, we're coming up to Gillingham Station. So here we are at Gillingham. Platform 1 over there is served by terminating services from London Victoria. Most times it's still got 465s doing that service. But last time when I was at Rochester, they were actually running 375s and even 377s to Gillingham. Although a bit of an update with the 377s, they're actually going back to Southern. So like the 377-5s. Also got the connection to Gillingham Depot, which the single track line from platform 1 continues, but also you get a connecting route via platform 3 and 2, which connects to the depot, which is actually used either by terminating services sometimes for stabling, but it also can be used at either end of the day, at the start or end of the day, by trains to and from Sheerness. Also to point out something else, that at one time Southeastern used to run services to Gillingham from Charing Cross via Dartford, but nowadays most of those are covered by Thameslink from Rainham, which follows the same course as like follows London Bridge by places like Dartford, Greenwich, etc. And then afterwards it goes to and then joins up with the main Thameslink route at Blackfriars, and most services then continue on from there to Luton. Although at one time at weekends Rainham services used to be cut back to Kentish Town, well surprisingly, but most of the trains nowadays do carry on to Luton. We're now approaching Rainham. the extended platform 3, which is used by Thameslink services terminating at Rainham. Normally Dover services running via Sittingbourne, etc. would actually call after Rainham at Newington, but there are a few exceptions though, in the peak hours that don't. So here we are at Rainham. So next stop for our service would be Sittingbourne. First time users in the journey with nice overview shot. Now tracks go into 4 tracks because the loop tracks will be used by trains stopping at Newington. You get occasional Ramsgate trains stopping there sometimes. Here we are passing through Emita. Just got to slow it down to 70 miles an hour. Just about to pass underneath the A249, which runs to Sheerness, which not only serves the junction for the M2, but also runs all the way down to the M20. So approaching Sheerness Junction, the triangle layout, this is where we meet up with the Sheerness line. You get two connections from either side. The one that we got, the first one, that's used mainly by empty stock movements to and from Gillingham most of the time. While the one from this one here mostly nowadays connect up with Sheerness services. Which terminate at Sittingbourne, which actually, speaking of Sittingbourne, we're just about to arrive into. I actually did the onboard journey video in this back in real life on the Sheerness Munch line back in March. There have been quite a lot of changes with Sittingbourne since I was there last back in March compared to this, which I'll go over in about once I've stopped this train. So here we are at Sittingbourne. So a couple of things to note. In real life, the retail area around the station has quite changed a lot since I was there. Funny enough, even Sittingbourne got Nando's there, rather surprisingly. Fair enough. Also, just to note one other thing, you know the modern footbridge with step-free access to all platforms? to the platforms. Well, that's still there. Well, actually, that's the only footbridge in real life there is now, because the one towards the rear of the platform was moved probably not that long ago. Probably life expired, probably the main reason. So quickly mention that platform 3 is used for terminating services to Sheerness on Sea. As I kind of mentioned earlier, that is nowadays in real life served by Class 375-3s. So next up in our service is Teynham. Then next one after that would be Faversham. Last time I did the route beyond Gillingham was actually my very first journey episode on Train Sim Journeys back in November 2020 on a Class 395. That was via the Southeastern high speed route. Now the version of that at the time was not based on the original. It actually was something I managed to find on Steam community, which actually updated a few things to it to make it more 2016. So some things like the Rochester New was being featured, not the original Rochester 4 platforms that was included on the old route. And also one other thing that was featured, that's the redevelopment of Strood, as well as also the altered platform now of Gravesend, because the original route when it was originally released, it originally had Gravesend with 2 platforms on either side with 2 passing rooms going through the middle. Nowadays it's 3 platforms, so you've got 2 platforms exclusive for North Kent services, and then a platform 0 that's used for terminating services. slow down a little bit too early there. My mistake. So about to arrive into Teynham. So now it's turned from after Sittingbourne for all Dover Priory trains to call at all stations. Sometimes you get Ramsgate trains serve here. Surprisingly also, one other fact, you also occasionally a few services a day, most either morning or night. Teynham also gets services from 395s, according to real-time trains, which I found rather surprisingly. So the next station is going to be Faversham itself, and that's where the lines to Ramsgate will diverge. So we just got the route indicator into platform 3 at Faversham. And that's where we're about to arrive into. Once we've gone around the right hander here. So here we are at Faversham. This is where sometimes 375s divide here when they're split into duties between Ramsgate and Dover Priory services. Normally the front set goes off to sometimes Ramsgate, but the rear set goes to Dover Priory or vice versa. In our case we're going all 8 cars to Dover Priory. So the Ramsgate line will go via Whitstable, Chesterfield and Swellcliffe, Herne Bay, Birchington-on-Sea, Westgate-on-Sea, Margate, Broadstairs, Ramsgate, and then it continues on after that via the Kent coastline. From there, we will continue on after that to where it actually joins up with the connection line from Ashford to Ramsgate line, which we'll come across that a little later on our route to Dover Priory. We're also serve stations such as Sandwich, Deal, Walmer, Martin Mill, and then we will join up again on our line that we're on now, just before Dover Priory. Whilst out route, we've got several more stops to go before the end. So our next stop for our service will be Selling. So here we are, the narrow platforms of selling. So should I try that announcement impersonation again? Should I try that? Right, here we go. This is a Southeastern service to Dover Priory, calling at Canterbury East, Bekesbourne, Addisham, Aylesham, Snowdown, Shepherdswell, Kearsney, and Dover Priory. The next station will be Canterbury East. So we're not far from our next stop at Canterbury East. We're passing over there, so must be the A2, which actually runs from Faversham all the way down to Dover. Goes slow down to 40 miles an hour. I'll explain why in a minute. Actually, I'll explain now, because if you just look closely down, there's another rail line coming up where the line has to pass over. And that is actually the Ashford to Ramsgate line, which serves Canterbury West, which is also used by Class 395s, mainly 12 car sets from St Pancras International to Margate. So they run 12 car to Ashford International as normal in air mode. Then they switch to third rail, and then it only calls at Canterbury West, Ramsgate, Broadstairs and Margate before it then turns back, heading back via Canterbury West. So yeah, at Canterbury East, which actually a bit of a history about this place is that back when it first opened, it was actually just known as Canterbury. But the confusion came round when the other station, Canterbury West, was also opened. So to avoid the confusion of the two, in 1889 they decided to rename this one that goes Chatham Main Line Canterbury East, whilst the one on the Ashford to Ramsgate line is of course Canterbury West. Now, a question I want to find out is that when the obviously 395s at present at this time don't run loop services like they used to do, did they actually any time when say Ramsgate was or the line between say Faversham to Ramsgate or to down towards Martin Mill was out of action, did it ever run diverts via Canterbury East? Now, I'm thinking myself here, I don't know why it's come up, it just came to me as of late, and I'm wondering that question, because I'm thinking of that for one reason, because sometimes when Southeastern Railway, when they have trains that go to Southampton, normally obviously will go via Basingstoke. But when that line from, say, Woking to Basingstoke is shut, normally they'll send trains down via Guildford, down to places like Farnham, and then rejoin the course of the Southeastern Main Line at just after St Denis station. Now, I don't think they've ever, in this case, run 395 through Canterbury East, because probably, obviously, the main reason is probably because of gauge clearance. Who knows? That's just a theory. It's just I'm just saying. It's just I don't think it's ever been a case of 395 going through by Canterbury East. If it ever has been, then let me know in the comments below if you've ever seen the 395 go through by Canterbury East. Not Canterbury West. That's I already mentioned. That's served by services from St Pancras International to Margate via Ashford International and of course Canterbury West. Who knows? So yeah, our next stop is going to be at Bekesbourne, and then after that we only have effectively after Bekesbourne is 6 more stops. to start slowing down into Bekesbourne. So here we are at Bekesbourne, and next station will be Addisham. Here we are arriving at the slightly staggered platform of Addisham. So next stop on the service will be Aylesham. This is Aylesham. Now, a bit of a funny thing about this station, if you want to know when it was first opened in July 1928, it was actually opened by the Southern Railway. Bit of an interesting fact. It's actually not a funny thing to say, but be on the serious side of things. The reason why it was actually opened is because it was able to to cater for considerable increase in passenger traffic at the time of development of the nearby Kent coalfield. So guys, if I'm not interacting as much as I was earlier in the journey. So next stop for on this service is going to be Snowdown. So here we are, arriving into Snowdown, which was opened originally by the London, Chatham and Dover Railway in 1914. Quite narrow platforms here. Just a little bit further on, there used to be a connection with the East Kent Railway. Not far between here and Shepherdswell, which is actually the very next stop. So where the former line used to connect up, it used to run the East Kent Railway. In fact, used to run to was opened in 1911, but closed in 1988, and it used to run not just as a heritage railroad from Shepherdswell. It was also actually, in fact, service as East Kent Light Railway. which actually used to run to Eiffel. Which is actually on the East Kent Railway itself. It actually got closed in 1948, but it actually was reopened as part of the East Kent Railway in 1993. So the East Kent Light Railway, that used to run from Shepherdswell to Rainham, or Canterbury Road, which had a branch line from East Street. I wonder this track on the left side of us. I wonder if that must have been where the old connecting line used to be. Or one of the connections. Or maybe not. Anyway, so arriving into Shepherdswell. As on our journey the sun continues to go down. Got 1 minute stop after this before Dover Priory, which is at Kearsney. So we enter the tunnel at Shepherdswell, which is actually over 2 miles long. It's actually the longest tunnel on the branch line between here and between Dover and Faversham by Canterbury East. Go reduce our speed down a little bit to 65 miles an hour. There's actually a station between Shepherdswell and Kearsney, which used to be called Stonehall and Lydon Holt, which opened in 1914, but it only had a lifespan of around 40 years, before originally closing, which opened June 1914, but closed in April 1954. Which actually, the station itself, used to serve the village of Lydon of Kent. So our final intermediate stop before Dover Priory is here at Kearsney. So the station itself, which opened in 1862 as Ewell. However, it was renamed to the present name of Kearsney in March 1869. So coming up to the junction where we meet up with the Kent coastline via Ramsgate, which is here at Buckland Junction. Now we've got two tunnels left for the final approach into Dover Priory. Here's the first of two tunnels, and that's the Chatham Tunnel. And then the final tunnel before Dover Priory is, of course, Priory Tunnel itself. And we've got the route indicator into our final. We'll stop at Dover Priory, and that'll be via platform 1. So there we are, at Dover Priory, our final destination. Anyway guys, that'll do it for another video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like, subscribe, share the video. I'll do my best I can to upload more content as soon as possible. Episode 5 will come soon, and I'll announce it over the next few days if possible. So thank you guys so much for watching, and until next video, see you next time. Bye guys.